The man who waited 79 minutes. For 79 minutes, Erling Haaland seemed trapped inside the biggest match of his life. Norway were facing Brazil in the World Cup round of 16. Brazil had 5 titles and a clear majority of supporters inside the stadium. Haaland, the striker built to score, could barely find space. To millions of viewers, he had disappeared. Then a cross arrived. 1 second, Haaland was standing motionless between defenders. The next, the ball was in the net, and when Brazil tried to respond, he appeared again to score a second. 2 decisive actions, 2 goals, 1 historic elimination. Most of us would have become desperate long before that moment. I need to touch the ball. I need to prove I'm here. I'm running out of time. But the mind of a scorer like Haaland must accept a brutal contradiction. He can spend almost an entire match without a reward and still be required to act perfectly when one opportunity finally appears. That is why this video is not really about his goals. It is about what happens during the long minutes when he does not score. It is about learning to wait without switching off, to miss without falling apart, and to carry the weight of being called a machine, because turning yourself into a performance machine offers an enormous advantage. But it can also demand a price. Before the machine, Haaland's story is often told as if he were built in a laboratory. The son of Alfie Haaland, a former Premier League footballer. The son of Marita Brat, a heptathlete, tall, fast, and seemingly designed to compete. But genes do not explain a career, and his beginning was less perfect than we now imagine. Haaland grew up in Bryne, a small Norwegian town where he entered the local football system at an early age. When he reached Bryne's first team, he made 16 league appearances without scoring a single goal. Think about that. The man who would later break scoring records began his professional career unable to do the very thing for which he is now famous. That matters because genuine confidence is not always born from early proof of superiority. Sometimes it is built after discovering that you are not yet the person you want to become. Instead of protecting the image of a child prodigy, Haaland had to develop ability. His body changed. His coordination improved. His reading of space became more precise. He moved from Bryne to Molde, then to Salzburg, Dortmund, and Manchester City. Every step increased the pressure, but it also accumulated internal evidence, completed training sessions, repeated movements, corrected mistakes, and goals produced. That creates a particular kind of confidence. Not the confidence that says, "I am unbeatable," but the kind that answers, "I have solved difficult problems before. I can do it again." The first piece of Haaland's psychology is not the absence of insecurity. It is the accumulation of evidence, the right obsession. In 2019, Haaland scored 9 goals in a single under-20 World Cup match. Years later, in his first Premier League season, he scored 36 goals and broke the competition's record. From the outside, numbers like those look like the product of an obsession with results. But a striker cannot directly control the result. He cannot control whether a teammate sees his run. He cannot control the rebound, the referee's decision, the opponent's system, or an extraordinary save. If his attention becomes trapped inside the thought, "I have to score," every goalless minute becomes a threat. What he can control is the process. Scanning before moving, waiting half a second, attacking the correct shoulder, creating a passing lane, and reaching the box without arriving too early. Sports psychology distinguishes between outcome goals and process goals. Winning, breaking a record, or becoming top scorer are outcomes. Body position, breathing, executing a run, or following a routine are processes. Research suggests that process goals generally support performance more effectively and can help manage anxiety because they return attention to a controllable action. Haaland represents this idea in an almost extreme form. He can touch the ball only a few times and still shape the match. Every run forces a defender to make a decision. Every pause prepares another acceleration. His job is not to chase the action constantly. It is to arrive at the exact place where the action will need him. That requires something deeply unglamorous, a tolerance for boredom. Excellence is rarely permanent intensity. More often, it is the ability to repeat a simple task without demanding that every repetition feel exciting. Useful obsession is not directed only toward the trophy, It is directed toward the detail that, repeated thousands of times, makes the trophy more likely. How to reduce chaos. Away from the pitch, Haaland has spoken publicly about the importance he places on sleep and recovery. He has described habits such as reducing nighttime exposure to screen light, using blue light blocking glasses, and paying attention to his breathing during sleep. He also practices meditation, a habit he transformed into one of his most recognizable celebrations. Not all of these methods have the same level of scientific support, and mechanically copying an athlete's rituals will not turn us into that athlete. The psychologically interesting part is not the accessory, it is the function. A routine removes decisions. When a person knows when they will rest, what they will do before competing, and what their first response to pressure will be, they spend less energy negotiating with themselves. The brain receives a familiar message: we have been here before. Now it is time to execute. Pre-performance routines have been associated with improved execution in ordinary conditions and under pressure, not because they erase nerves, but because they provide a stable sequence when everything around the athlete is unstable. Meditation serves a similar function. It is not about emptying the mind completely or becoming an emotionless statue. It is about noticing a distraction and returning attention to the present without starting an internal fight. A striker who has just missed a chance now has two matches in front of him, the one continuing on the pitch and the one his mind keeps replaying. If he remains trapped in the missed opportunity, he will arrive late to the next one. Presence does not change the past. It prevents one mistake from collecting interest, the talent of disappearing. There is a reason some viewers criticize Haaland whenever he does not score. His most important talent can be difficult to see. He does not always dribble past 4 opponents. He does not need 100 touches. For long stretches, he can appear disconnected, until a 3-yard run destroys the entire defensive structure. Psychologically, that requires resistance to urgency. When people feel ignored, instinct often pushes them to do something visible in order to regain control. In football, a striker may abandon his zone, drop too deep to receive the ball, or force a play that does not exist. He gets a touch, but loses the position from which he could have been decisive. Haaland has to resist that temptation. His discipline does not always look like effort. Sometimes it looks like stillness. This is an uncomfortable lesson for everyday life. We confuse movement with progress because movement can be displayed. We answer everything, change strategies, start another task, and chase an immediate reward. But some opportunities can only be used if we are still in position when they arrive. Waiting does not mean becoming passive. It means maintaining attention, preparation, and energy without wasting them on an action born from fear. Confidence is not calmness. We often imagine that elite athletes no longer feel nervous, as if confidence were a room from which doubt had been permanently removed. But mental strength does not require feeling calm all the time. It requires functioning even when calmness never arrives. Haaland can miss a chance, absorb a week of criticism, and enter the next match knowing that millions of people expect another goal. Pressure does not disappear when you become successful. It becomes more specific. First, you must prove that you belong. Then, you must prove that you still belong. Useful confidence does not promise an outcome. It organizes a response. If a mistake happens, return to position. If anxiety appears, return to the breath. If the ball does not arrive, continue reading the space. If the opportunity comes, finish the action without trying to solve every accumulated criticism with a single shot. That is why the best performers can look simple in impossible moments. They do not necessarily think less. They have decided in advance which thoughts deserve obedience. If you want to understand great figures beyond their results, subscribe. Here, we study not only what they achieved, but the mind they had to build in order to achieve it. When the world turns you into a character, Haaland is not described only as a great striker. He is called a robot, an android, a monster, a machine. The label sounds like praise, but it contains a trap. Machines do not get tired, doubt themselves, suffer injuries, or need understanding. They simply produce. When he scores, he confirms the character. When he does not, it is not treated as normal human variation. It is presented as a malfunction. This kind of dehumanization can shape the way the public judges any athlete. One goalless match becomes a crisis. A poor run becomes decline. An injury becomes wasted time. Success raises the standard so quickly that the extraordinary is eventually perceived as an obligation. There is another risk. The athlete may also begin to see himself exclusively through performance. Psychology uses the term athletic identity to describe the degree to which a person defines themselves through the athletic role. A strong athletic identity can provide direction, discipline, and belonging. But if it becomes too narrow, an injury, a place on the bench, or retirement does not threaten only a career. It threatens the answer to the question, who am I? We cannot claim from the outside that Haaland personally lives inside that conflict. Doing so would mean inventing his inner world. But we can recognize the pressure created by his public character. If everyone expects a machine, showing that you are human can feel like disappointing everyone. The price of optimization. High performance turns an entire life into a system. Sleep is no longer only sleep. It is recovery. Food becomes fuel. Rest becomes preparation. Even a quiet moment can become a technique for performing better. That approach creates real advantages. It also raises a question. What happens when everything must justify its usefulness? If a person rests only to produce more, rest is never completely free. If every habit is measured, any deviation can feel like guilt. And if the body becomes a permanent project, listening to its limits can be mistaken for a lack of ambition. Sustainable discipline is not the control of every second. It is the construction of enough structure that one bad night, one injury, or one defeat cannot destroy an entire identity. Perhaps that is why Haaland's public image becomes more interesting whenever he steps away from the robot. When he jokes, meditates, celebrates with teammates, or accepts that a match did not go the way he wanted. Those moments do not weaken the competitor. They remind us that the system works for a person, not that the person exists to feed the system. The machine is a powerful metaphor, but it would become a dangerous prison if it turned into an obligation. Brazil, one more time. Let us return to the 79th minute against Brazil. By the time the cross arrived, Haaland had spent almost the entire match managing frustration. He had made runs without receiving the ball, waited between defenders, and watched the available time disappear. The goal lasted only a moment, but it was built during every minute in which nothing visible happened. Then came the second. Norway reached the first World Cup quarterfinal in their history, and Haaland finished his tournament debut with 7 goals. It is tempting to look at those numbers and conclude that we are watching a person without fear. Perhaps the better conclusion is different. We are watching someone who has built processes capable of operating in the presence of fear, fatigue, silence, and expectation. Mental strength is not turning yourself into stone. It is remaining available for the next action. What we can learn. Haaland's psychology can be summarized in 4 principles. First, build confidence with evidence, not empty phrases. Keep small promises, repeat skills, and allow your history of work to speak when doubt appears. Second, translate the result into a process. You cannot command a goal, an opportunity, or success to arrive. You can decide where to place your attention and what your next controllable action will be. Third, design routines for the moments when motivation fails. A useful routine does not make you rigid. It reduces the number of decisions that pressure can sabotage. Fourth, do not allow excellence to consume the person. Your performance is something you produce. It is not the totality of who you are. Haaland has become one of the most feared scorers in the world because he appears able to repeat the extraordinary. But his true advantage may not be his ability to act like a machine. It may be his understanding of when to repeat, when to wait, and when to return to the present. The world remembers the second when the ball crosses the line. The scorer's mind is built during every second that comes before it. And in our next analysis, we will explore the opposite extreme, a mind that does not silence chaos, but learns to use it against the opponent.